Ag with Steve Bartilla. Brought to you by
Over the course of a year, whitetail's patterns change dramatically. Frankly, because they have to meet all their wants and needs. You have the habitat changing wildly. It goes from being lush and green like this to being a veritable desert. Nothing but sticks and dead grass. The whitetail's biology and physiology goes through massive changes. That Mr. Big coming into spring, his biggest concern coming into spring is building his body back up. He's lost 25 to 30% during the rut. He went ahead and ran a negative energy balance all winter long, meaning that they went ahead and burnt more calories than they were able to get for their food. Now, some more Midwestern deer, that's not the case. When you got a cornfield, bean fields they're standing, crop fields that they're able to pick at all winter long, that changes things. But in natural settings, geez, winter is a real tough time to make it through right after the rut, even in the Midwest, because they've lost that 25 to 30% body weight. Their seasonal low point for food's coming up and the temperature's dropping. Once you get green up like this, is a time of bounty. Most of summer is as well, except if you're dealing with arid regions. Fall, man, there's all sorts of changes. The woods have went from being buggy and gross to us being out there running around in it now. We're kicking Mr. Big all over. Food sources are popping up and disappearing. But in general, the food supply is going like this. It's getting smaller and smaller the deeper into fall you get. And then the farmers pick their crops and now it's getting smaller and then you get snow. There are so many things that are changing. We need to change our tactics to stay in deer. Start out the season, it's all about food and water. Mr. Big is fattening up for what's coming up. He's gonna drop that 25 to 30% body weight. So he's gonna take it pretty darn easy. Find him. He's going from point A, his bedding area, to point B and C, his food and water, and back and forth. That's about it. At that time of year, you need to locate him and figure out how you can set up without him knowing you're there. You do that, you got a chance. The more pressure it is, generally speaking, the closer you need to go back towards his bedding area, and that sticks all the way until you get to, I'm going to talk central Wisconsin here, that last week of October is the peak scrape phase. Now is when that testosterone is really starting to go up. Yes, the bucks have been scraping in September, for crying out loud, but the overwhelming majority of those scrapes are going to occur after dark. You don't hunt after dark. You hunt during legal light. That activity that occurs after dark doesn't do you any good, so you find those scrapes way early. I do it in the spring. Okay, find those scrapes with the bowl-shaped appearance as long as that licking branch is still there and massive changes hasn't occurred. If it was hammered hard last year, odds are really good that it's going to be hammered hard this year, only I want it back in areas he's going to feel safe. I set up and I leave it until that last week of October, no matter how darn good it looks. Okay, that last week of October, I'm hunting scrapes, and then starting right around November 1st to the 5th, right in there somewhere, I'm going to switch over to hunting the rut. That means hunting funnels between doe bedding areas, hunting the downwind edges of doe bedding areas, because that's how Mr. Big finds them, and going ahead and hunting the food sources in the afternoons that the does frequent so heavily. Once we get out of the rut, what happens is Mr. Big, he knows that there's still some doe fawns and possibly an adult doe even that's going to be late coming into estrus. While that 1.5, 2.5, and often 3.5-year-old buck is essentially shut down, will they nose deer around the food plots? Of course they will, around the food sources. I'm talking about putting on miles to find deer, find does. They tend not to, the youngsters tend not to do that, but Mr. Big, this is not his first rodeo. He has done this before. He knows there's more opportunities, but now, once there's no does and doe fawns in his areas anymore, that's when he tends to go looking. Okay, that's why post-rut is often when some of the biggest bucks are killed, because they're going off looking for those last breeding opportunities. During post-rut, I hunt the doe bedding areas during the mornings. Why? I'm looking for that estrus doe fawn, just like Mr. Big is. In the afternoon, I'm hunting food sources. I'm hunting the food source because that's where the does are going, therefore the fawns as well. Great place to find them, and because Mr. Big has just dropped 25 to 30% body weight, and he is also going to be running a negative energy balance, food is important. So switching to food at that point works well. One deviation in all of, well, a couple deviations. First, I'm going to be rigidly flexible the entire time. If Mr. Big tells me that he is ripe for the picking on that wide open clear cut, even if it happens to be peak rut, he's not supposed to be out there feeding, but he is. Guess what? I'm going to alter my tactic. I'm going to go try to take him. When Mr. Big tells you that he's ripe for the pickings, pick him. Listen, the other exception is now, there it is, mid-October. Yes, we look at the rut as being this tight window. I'll tell you what, with the way our weather is anymore, there's nothing tight about this at all. But it's getting to be more and more and more and more stretched, because Mother Nature's not penalizing these deer with death for early and late born fawns anywhere near as consistently as she used to. But that said, we want to look at it as this tight, nice little window. It's not. Some deer are bred in Wisconsin in September. They always have. The majority of deer are coming in estrus in this window. Some come in early, some come in later. So weather does not have anything to do with inspiring estrus. That said, we don't care when Mr. Big is displaying rutting behavior, whether or not it's because the does are in estrus or because there's been a 10-degree temperature drop. In October, when the temps have been like this, pretty darn steady, for 5+ days, and you get a 10+ degree temperature drop, I'm going to go hunt those bedding areas, even though it's mid-October and it's not time yet, because that cold front goes ahead and inspires extra activities. So, despite this being the formula, always remain rigidly flexible. Final thoughts, brought to you by Huntworth. All sorts of things are changing out in the deer woods. If we want to stay in deer from opening day to season's close, we need to change with them. I start the season by hunting food, then I shift to scrapes, then I shift to funnels and doe bedding areas, then post-rut, I'm hunting doe bedding areas in the mornings, food sources in the afternoons, and I'm remaining rigidly flexible the entire time, because if Mr. Big tells me jump this way, I'm going to jump that way. He's what I'm after, and he's the best teacher I got out there. But you simply must adjust your stand placements for the changes. Virtually no stand is good from opening day through the close. Way too many of us burn out our stands before they even get good. Go ahead and match the stand for the right phase of season. Show the discipline to hunt it when it's hot, and your success is going to go up.